I'm talking with Bob DeCook and Phil Clampett, co-authors of the book, Transforming Leaders into Progress Makers. Bob, I know you've spoken to many groups in the past few years. How do people respond when you ask them, have you ever formulated your response to people's ideas before they finish expressing their thoughts?
Somewhere in presentations that I make, I try to ask the group the questions related to communication and listening. That's where this comes up. And I give the audience a test and say, let's test your own listening and communication skills. And so the question, as you suggest, I ask is, have you ever started formulating your rebuttal before the other person stops talking? All the hands in the room go up. And it suggests a problem with listening skills. It suggests a tendency to want to respond and get the upper hand in the conversation before you think about and fully analyze what the other person is saying. It's another debilitating tendency that we have to reduce collaboration, reduce listening, and reduce progress making.
Phil, I know you debated in high school. Do you have a different insight than Bob on this?
Well, I was a debater in high school and college, and I love to debate, and I think that's an important skill. But in this case, it's right skill, right time. And what happens is in groups, and what Bob has clearly identified here, is happens early stages of groups when the problem is being defined or new solutions are being created. What people tend to do is to shoot down other people's ideas. Somebody will throw up an idea, and then we all take a shot at it. And then we throw up another idea, and somebody takes a shot at it. That's a debate kind of skill, a great skill, but the wrong time to do it, because what you've done is set up incentives within that group then to not suggest new ideas, or only suggest ones that are completely documented, completely fully formed, and therefore you don't get the growth and development of ideas and the ricochet and the bouncing of ideas from one person to the other as they grapple with, problems that might occur with an idea or the inconsistencies with it. So yes, debate's important, but that's what we reserve for a skill later on in the process, not early in the process when we talk about the problem, and not early in the process when we start talking about a variety of creative solutions.
And Phil, it also suggests that the people on the receiving end of that communication haven't really heard the full story from the person that's doing the talking. They don't even understand completely, because not only have they started thinking about something else, they've stopped listening to the full point of view. So it's a big problem.
You've convinced me of the problem. Now what can we do about it? How do we resolve this?
Well, I think it's a matter of training ourselves, and we all do this, we all have this problem to some degree, training ourselves with something that I would call active listening skills. We have to have this little bird in the back of our head that coaches us to say, wait until the other person is done, and then the active listening part is to actually perhaps ask some questions or to clarify in questions that you would ask to the person who was speaking about what they really meant, to make sure you've completely understood the idea, and then the roles reverse and you have a chance to talk and the other person should actively listen.
I see that active listening as being receiver-centric, Bob. And that is, I'm not focused as much on what I have to say as much as I'm focused on what you as a sender have to say, and I'm asking those questions to be receiver-centric. I always think about the classic example of when we're not terribly receiver-centric when the Chevrolet called one of its cars Nova, which they started marketing it in Mexico, and of course in Spanish that means no go. There must have been somebody, someplace who said, this is a dumb idea to name a car like that, but nobody actually brought that to the fore, and it didn't have any bearing on the decision. And ultimately, of course, that car didn't do very well in that culture.
So just to make sure I understood what you said, you're calling the receiver-centric communications the same thing that I'm calling active listening. Is that
I think that's fair
good
to
understanding?
say.
Well, thank you both for moving us beyond the have you ever question to how can we make progress on this particular issue.